DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And we put all this together into one framework, one book, one philosophy, one university, and a daily masterclass, the one you are listening to right now, that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is the game will elevate you. The game will demand your presence if you have game. Now, this is something that I was talking about actually on my Instagram story, probably sometime in October or November, when I was talking about the subject of any of you ever feel like you have lost out on an opportunity, or you feel like you were passed over for an opportunity that maybe should have been yours. Every single year when they have the NBA draft or the NFL draft, and maybe sometimes in baseball and hockey, but I know about the NBA and NFL drafts a little bit more closely, there's always these stories of these players who, when they were first coming up, maybe out of high school, they had no Division I offers, they had no scholarship offers. Maybe they had to go to a prep school, maybe they were a walk-on, or maybe they were the fifth string point guard on the team when they first got to college, or whatever the situation. And they had very little fanfare when they showed up. But then they finally get their chance, and then they perform, and then they get better, and then they quote unquote make it. And everyone's telling this story, and it's always propped up. Like there was a player who played for the LA Lakers, a guy named Kyle Kuzma, who was I think he's still on the Lakers, at least as of this recording he is. He posted after the Lakers had won the recent 2020 NBA championship how he didn't have too many offers coming out of high school, or maybe he didn't have any D1 offers, and he went to I think he might have went to a JUCO first, then he went to a mid-major Division I school, and then he was picked late in the first round, and then people didn't think he was really going to make it in the league, and now he's an NBA champion. And it's like the Cinderella story that people like to tell. Or a player becomes a Pro Bowler in the NFL, and people talk how he didn't have any offers coming out of college and had to walk on at this community college, and then did okay at this smaller college, and then finally get a shot in the NFL. Maybe they were on a practice squad and got cut a couple times, and they were working as a bagging boy at a grocery store 3 months ago, and now they're a Pro Bowler, and then they got a contract for $50 million. And it's like this Cinderella story that gets told as if to say to people, hey, if you're in a situation where you're failing right now, or it doesn't look like you're going to make it, and you don't really have any traction, you should keep going, because you might be the next person that's 1 in a million shot to become successful anyway, just like this individual that we're propping up here. And it's not that it's necessarily wrong, because somebody's going to become that 1 in a million. Out of a million, somebody's got to be the one. So I'm not trying to discourage anybody from going after what they want to go after. But there's a part that gets left out. And the part that gets left out when these stories get told is that the game itself elevated that individual and demanded that individual be brought forward because of their performance. Not because of their belief, not because they wanted it so badly, not because they were motivated or inspired, not because they watched the hype up YouTube video before every practice. It is because of their performance, because they delivered results. This is the key thing that gets left out when these stories are getting told, or this person was counted out and nobody believed in them, nobody gave a damn about them, nobody thought they were going to be successful. And look, they became successful anyway. So anyone who's in that situation where nobody thinks you're going to become successful, you can become successful too if you just believe in yourself. Or nobody really says how to actually do it. They just tell you the story as an inspirational thing, but nobody actually points out like, yo, this person had to deliver. This person had to actually bring results to the table. This person had to actually fucking perform. Nobody really talks about that. And I understand why, because if you tell people that they got to actually perform, now see, that's the part where the actual work comes in. All right? That's the part where the actual effort comes in and something has to actually get done. It's one thing to tell somebody just believe in yourself and just keep going and just keep trying. Sometimes when I'm on, especially a place like YouTube, this happened many times over the years, especially when the topic was basketball. And to this day, I still make videos about overseas basketball, professional level. But when I would make basketball drill videos and things like that, talking about making it in college and playing overseas and things like that when I was actively playing, and a player would ask me something about how do I make it, because I have these things against me. I'm not that tall, or I haven't performed that much. I haven't made the team. I keep getting cut. The coach didn't pick me. Nobody's paying attention to me. How can I make it? And I would tell people the truth. I would say, well, first of all, if you're 5'7", you better be spectacular. You better not make any mistakes. You better be one of the best ball handlers in there. You better be very quick. You better be a great shooter. You never turn the ball over. You better be a very good defender, even though you might not be able to defend everybody. You can't afford to make the same mistakes that a guy a foot taller than you can make. And you need to be very, very skilled. You need to be very, very sharp, and you can't afford to make mistakes. That's the way that it is. That's the deal. Because of your size, you are behind the 8 ball, and that's how it goes. Then what happens is, let me tell you what happens in these situations. Somebody who has nothing to do with the situation, somebody who's reading their comments, and this happened on Twitter before, it's happened on Instagram, it's happened on Facebook, and it's happened on YouTube. Some player will ask some question about their future or where they're trying to get to, and I'll tell them the truth. Like, yo, you have to, first of all, you got to have some game. Then you have to find the opportunity. You got to create or find the opportunity. Then you have to perform, and you got to produce results. If you miss any one of those 4 steps, you will not achieve. That's the bottom line. And it can sound kind of harsh to some people at times, especially when they don't get the full context. They can't hear my voice. They're just reading the words that I wrote down. And then what happens? This will happen so often, especially in the basketball days. Some asshole will come in there, not trying to be an asshole. They're trying to be helpful. At least they call themselves being helpful. They would come in and add on to mine and say, well, Dre, you're being kind of harsh. And then they would try to offer the person this fairy tale Disney movie answer. They would say something like, man, look, this person, they didn't have any, Kyle Kuzma, he didn't have any offers and he made it. And this person, they just got drafted to the NFL. They didn't have anything. And all you got to do is keep working, keep trying, believe in yourself, be the hardest working person in the gym, show up early, stay late. And if you just keep believing and stay motivated and stay focused, you can make it too. And then the player who asked the original question, you know what they'll do? They'll respond to the asshole who came in with the fairy tale comment and say, hey, thanks a lot for the encouragement. I really appreciate it. And they wouldn't even say anything back to me. And this happened more than once. All right, this is not a one-time thing. It's happened more than one time. And sometimes I would get in there and I would tell to the fairy tale person who came in with the extra comment that wasn't asked for, what I'm going to explain to you all today, or at least partially what I'm going to explain to you all today, is that the performance aspect of the game often gets left out by the assholes who are trying to tell you that you just believe in yourself, you'll make it. I'm going to tell you that's bullshit. All right, in case I never said it before, I know I've said this before. I'm saying it today, and I will say this again. All right, so you can write this down because I will say it again. You can make a drinking game out of this. When you listen to 20 episodes of Dre's show, how many times did he say you need to perform? All right, every time I say you got to perform, drink. Okay, you must perform for the game to elevate you. The game will not elevate you because you believe in yourself. The game will not elevate you because your mom thinks you deserve to make it. The game will not elevate you because you work really hard and you work yourself to the point of exhaustion on your game or on anything, on your business or anything that you're doing out here. This tends to happen. Maybe it's because I only notice it because of my myopic view of the sports world, because I'm so deep in the game in the sports world. But I'm sure this happens in other industries. I don't hear about it as much in business. I don't ever hear, I'm in business programs, I'm in business coaching programs, I'm in business communities with other entrepreneurs. I never hear anybody saying anything like, I never hear anybody being encouraged by saying, hey, if you just believe in yourself and work hard and be focused and be motivated, you can make it. I never hear a business coach tell that to an entrepreneur. I never do. If any of you have ever heard that, please tell me the business coach who's giving that advice, because they're probably not going to last too long. So I want to catch them before they disappear. But I hear in the athletic world, I hear this all the time. And here's what's funny. Here's what's crazy, right? It is a much higher likely probability that you can, quote unquote, make it in the business world than you'll make it in the athletic world, especially in team sports, because there's a finite number of available slots in team sports. Everybody ain't making it no matter how much you believe. Even if you perform, you might not make it in team sports because there's a limit to how many people can get on. In the business world, anybody can get on as long as you can find a customer, as long as you can find a product, as long as consumerism exists, you can make it in the business world. But nobody in the business world ever tells people you can make it by believing in yourself. But in the sports world, where it's even harder to get on, you hear this bullshit advice being thrown about so often by people who call themselves helping. And then you have the people, the players, who are hearing this and they're happy to hear it because it sounds like something positive that gives them some reason to believe that they should keep trying when they just don't want to hear what's actually real. It's not even about it being the truth. It's about being what's real. What's real is if you don't perform, you don't eat. That's the game. And today's topic is the game will elevate you. Not your belief. Your belief will not elevate you. Your belief will put you in a position to do what you need to do, but you still got to do it. And if you don't do it, then the game's going to leave you behind. And you can either take my word for it or you can go find out the hard way on your own. But it is your choice, but you will learn one way or another. Maybe if you're smart, you're going to learn today. Point number 1. Today's topic, once again, is the game will elevate you. I told you this story in my book, Work on Your Game, and I actually had talked about this on this show a long time ago. Let me tell you what episode it was, because I remember talking about this even before I made the Work on Your Game book. This is episode number 157 of the show. 157. The topic is a real hit cannot be stopped. I told this story in my book about how DJ Khaled, and this is pre-Snapchat DJ Khaled. All right, this is way before Snapchat. This is when DJ Khaled was just a DJ, okay? And he just played records. I mean, he made his albums and all that. This is before social media DJ Khaled took off. Some artist, a rapper, had seen DJ Khaled at a performance that the rapper was doing and DJ Khaled was DJing, and the rapper called out DJ Khaled in front of the audience on the microphone and said, DJ Khaled, you don't ever play any of my records. Stop hating on me. Start playing my records, man. You ain't never playing my records. And DJ Khaled didn't get a chance to speak back to the artist right there on the spot when it happened. But after the fact, DJ Khaled spoke to some media outlet and he said, let that artist know that the reason why his records don't get played is because his music is garbage. If your music was better, then you wouldn't need a DJ to play your record, because if you made a hit record, Mr. Artist, if you were to make a hit record, no DJ could stop that record from becoming a hit. A hit record is going to take off because the game, the fans, the consumers will demand that record get played. Even if I hate you, if I'm the DJ and I hate you as a rapper, but you have the biggest hit record in the world right now, I will be a complete fool to not play your record, because the crowd, the fans, want me to play that record. So I could hate you personally, but I still got to play your record 20 times in my next show because the fans want to hear that song. See, this is how the game elevates you. When your work is good enough, the game will demand that you be brought forward. But if you're asking or hoping for someone else to bring you forward, it's because your game isn't sharp enough yet. And this is what DJ Khaled, this is the point DJ Khaled was getting across. I mean, he made it a hot line. I made it a hot song. I put it in my book. I did a whole masterclass on it, and I'm talking about it right now. When you and your work are good enough, the market will push you forward regardless of how anyone feels about you. I don't care if they're your biggest hater, if they're an indifferent person, if there's an incumbent who is in front of you who already has your spot. If you are good enough, the game will force you into the front position simply because the fans demand you. The consumers are demanding you. The market is demanding you. This is just the way that it works in life, ladies and gentlemen. You look at yourself. Anywhere where you have achieved at a high level, it is because maybe somebody put you in that spot. Maybe somebody hooked you up. All right? Maybe somebody hooked you up and gave you a position that maybe you hadn't even earned yet. But once you got into that position, you had to earn it. You had to earn your right to stay in that position. Otherwise, you lost it. And if you lost it, it's because your game just wasn't in place yet. Maybe nobody ever put you anywhere. Maybe you never got a hookup in your life and you had to earn everything from zero. Okay, but did you earn it? Okay, you did. So even if you get put into a place, if you don't have the game to hold that spot, you'll lose it. This is just the way that it works. And this works the same way for everybody, no matter how much privilege you either have or feel like you don't have, or you're looking on somebody else's plate, you see that they got something and you don't have much. Listen, the game will elevate or demote everybody based on how you perform and the results that you deliver. If you let the game play out for long enough, it will work out this way for everybody. I don't care how much easier you think it is for somebody than it is for you and all that bullshit. It will work out this way for everyone eventually. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the game will elevate you. Your job, then, is thus: make your work unimpeachable and make it your key aim to make people know of what you deliver. Again, make your work unimpeachable. Make your work so tight, so solid, so correct that when people see it, they're like, okay, this person's for real. Even if only 2 people see it, they're like, all right, those 2 people are like, yo, this motherfucker is on point. And then on top of that, those 2 people that already know that you're on point, your other aim, actually your key aim, is to make sure more people know about what you're doing. That's your job. That's it. That's actually the whole game right there. I can just cut off this episode right now and never publish another episode of this show. I've given you everything you need. Make your work unimpeachable so that nobody can front on you, nobody can hate on you, nobody can knock you and say that you're trash or have any evidence that you're not good because your work is so solid and so on point that they can't say shit. And then on top of that, make sure more people know about it. So if 2 people know about you now, make sure it's 3 people by tomorrow. And then make sure it's 5 by the day after that, and 7 and 12 and 27 by the day after that. That's it. Many of us who are creators at heart spend a whole lot of time and effort creating, working on our games, or at least we think we're working on our games, and we don't even spend 20% of that same time and energy promoting our games, making sure people actually know about it. I know a whole lot of creators, entrepreneurs, people who have something that they want to put out into the world who spend a good amount of time on the work, on the creation, on creating that thing and having it in place and doing it and putting all the work into it, but they don't have the natural inclination, nor do they have the thought or even the idea. They're not putting the effort into getting the word out, like making sure people actually know that it exists. Do you think just because you wrote a book that people know about it? Like, you know about it because your book, but guess what? Nobody else knows as much about it as you do. And this is a challenge that a lot of creators have, especially when we spend a whole lot of time on something. We just think the world is just going to know about it. We think the world is just going to beat a path to our door, magically find out about something, and just come running and demanding it just because we created it. But understand that everybody on this planet is focused on, guess who? Themselves. They're not focused on you. They're not focused on your book. They're not focused on your podcast or your YouTube channel. They're not focused on your course. They're focused on what they're doing, which means you have to learn how to get the word out and make sure that people know that it's something you're actually giving out here. It's something that you're doing out here, and there's an art and a science to it. It's kind of like a mix between the two. You have to learn to blend. I talked about this in episode number 1511, the art of drawing attention. There's an art to it and there's a science to it. So if you haven't listened to that episode, again, it's episode number 1511, the art of drawing attention. You had to do the promotion job. And this, again, in Work on Your Game University, we focus on 3 specific things. I'm going to make it real easy for you to understand what we do here. Number 1, develop your game. Number 2, showing off your game. And number 3, getting the ROI for your game. So this is point number 2, showing off and making sure that people know you for your game, promoting your game, getting the word about your game out into the ears of the people who need to hear it. And then once they see it, because your game is so tight, because we did that in point number 1, now you're getting the ROI. Now you're getting paid for your game. Now you're getting the return on investment for your game. That's what we do at Work on Your Game University. That's it. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com if you didn't know. Develop your game, show your game, get you paid for your game. Many of us stop at step 1, developing our game. Then we go do step 1 again. Develop some more game, develop some more game. You got the most game in the world, but people don't know who you are. That's a problem. We got to focus on point number 2, promoting, making sure people know exactly what you're doing. And it just so happens that this is point number 2 of today's episode. Point and showing up and getting the ROI for your job, that's part of the job too. But let's get point number 2 down, then we'll focus on point number 3. Point number 3, as it so happens, today's topic once again is the game will elevate you. When you get your chance to perform, you better be ready because the market will tell you what the deal is. When you get your chance to perform, be ready because the market will tell you what the deal is. In life, when you're in any type of business, let the information decide what the deal is. The data will tell you what it is. Any form of marketing, the data always decides. Right there, you are never making your decisions based on your instinctive hunches or any of that bullshit. You make your decisions based on what the market is telling you. The market will let you know anything that you're selling. The market will let you know if you're good or if you're bad, if your work is useful, if your work is garbage. When you get your chance to perform, be ready to perform. The market will tell you, hey, this is good, this is not. You're one of the best out here. You need to go back to the drawing board. You're in the right place. You're in the wrong place. What is good or bad is determined by the response of the consumer of your work. So sometimes people create things or they put things out or they get a certain result and they ask, well, is this good? Is this bad? Is this normal? Is this average? And the answer to the question is always good, bad, normal, average is weighed against the past, is weighed against where you were before. So if you got a 20% open rate to your email, is that good or bad? It depends. What was your open rate last week? What was your open rate last month? What was the open rate of the last email you sent out? Is it lower or is it higher? That's how you know if it's good or bad. It's not compared to any arbitrary number that you made up or some stat that you grabbed off of Google. It's based on performance. Everything is performance based. Okay, whether you are hot or not is based on where you were before. Are you doing better or are you doing worse? And what are you measuring? What are the KPIs that you're measuring? This is all part of your strategy, which is part of the 9-part Work on Your Game system, which again is available at Work on Your Game University. We got you covered on everything here. As long as you're willing to get in on this, what we got going on here, we got you covered on everything. Okay? What is good or bad is determined by the response of the consumers that you are targeting. Not everybody, just the consumers that you're targeting. Make sure that you targeted the right consumer and make sure that it's clear what you're giving them and why you're giving it to them. So if you miss on those, see, you could be having great work, but you're just giving it to the wrong person. You're showing it to the wrong audience. You're showing it to the wrong consumer. They're not responding, so you're like, man, something must be wrong with my work. No, nothing's wrong with your work. You're just showing it to the wrong person. You're trying to sell a $1,000 product to people with $10 in their pocket. Nobody buys it. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with your $1,000 product. It means you got to find a different market of people who can afford to buy it, so then you can get a response. Now you know if the product is good or not. If you're selling a $10 product to people who are looking to buy a $1,000 product, they might not buy it because they think it's cheap. Nothing wrong with your product. You're just selling to the wrong people. If you got a $100 product and you tell them that it does A, B, C, but they're looking for something that does X, Y, Z, so nobody buys it, there's nothing wrong with your product. There's nothing wrong with the market. It's just something's wrong with the way you're positioning it, the way you're talking about it, and the way you're promoting it. Therefore, it's not working. So you see, all these different things could be the issue. And you may not be able to self-diagnose this, but I can help you diagnose it. That's why we created Work on Your Game University. You see how all roads are leading back to what we do here at Work on Your Game. We're doing this to help you take your game from where it is to the next level so you become a success story, and that's how it helps us. So if you're showing your work to the wrong person, or you're showing the wrong work to the right person, or you're showing the right work to the right person, but you're positioning it the wrong way, you're explaining it the wrong way, you're promoting it the wrong way, any of those could cause things to not work. So you got to make sure you got the trifecta in place. And before you even do that, you got to make sure you have developed your game, you know how to show your game, so you're getting in front of enough of those people to get enough data to know what's working or not. And then make sure you know what your ROI is, know what your KPIs are, so you know what you're measuring. Because you can measure 1,000 different things. You play basketball, you can measure your assists, your points, your rebounds, your field goal percentage, your minutes, how many fouls you had, if the team won or lost, how many people cheering for you. Which one matters the most? You need to have answers to those questions. This is all part of your planning and strategy so that when you get in the game, you know what you're measuring, so you know how you measure whether you're doing better or doing worse, whether you know if the team is good or bad, how you know which player is better, if player A is better than player B. You got to know what you're measuring here. A lot of times we go into things having no idea what we're measuring, so we do a whole bunch of random stuff. We get a bunch of apparently random data, and then we don't know what to measure to know whether we're doing better or worse because there's no strategy in place. But again, at Work on Your Game University, you get the mindset, the strategy, the accountability, and the action plan to make sure that all of this stuff comes together. Again, that's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Let's recap today's class, which is the game will elevate you. Something I was talking about on social media, just talking about people losing or being passed over for an opportunity. Every year you get these stories of people who've been passed over many times, but then they make it. But the thing that gets left out of the story is the fact that they had to perform to finally make it, not just believe. Point number one, DJ Khaled told this story. A hit record cannot be stopped. When you make a hit record and it's solid enough, your work is good enough, it does not matter what other people think. It doesn't matter if they hate you, if they're your biggest detractor, if they're indifferent, if they never heard of you. The market will determine and force you to the front of the line. Point number two, your job is to make your work unimpeachable, and your key aim is to make people know that your work is unimpeachable. That's it. Those are the only two things you got to do. Many of us are creators at heart, spend so much time creating, not even 20% of that same time and energy promoting. The world will not magically find out about what you're doing. They are not thinking about it, even 1% as much as you are thinking about it. Make sure that you are developing your game, then showing your game. That's the point. This is what we're talking about here. Then getting paid for your game. Many people only develop, then they just develop, but they never do the showing part. Point number three, when you get your chance to perform, you got to be ready. Because the market will tell you what the deal is, whether you're hot or not, whether you're one of the best or you're trash. What's good or bad is determined by the response of your consumer. So you must know who you're targeting, why you're targeting them, what you're offering them, and what you're measuring with them, and how you present what you're offering. If you mess up on any one of those, your shot could miss the mark, and then you're fixing the wrong thing. So you got to also know what is the right thing that you need to fix. I talked about this in the masterclass on Insight, which is masterclass number 1177. The key from going from 1x to 10x is having the right insights. We have developed all of these things. I've developed all of these over the years. That's why I do this class every single day. because I know what the hell I'm talking about. And that's why we have Work on Your Game University in place. Join us at workonyourgameuniversity.com. I'm not playing. This is where we help you take everything you learn here at Work on Your Game and the rubber meets the damn road. If you're ready for that, join us, Work on Your Game University. We out of here. Dre all day.